You've got studios remaking games we barely asked for, slapping polish on a new code and calling it progress. But this time, it's different, because this franchise was supposed to come back and shut everyone up. Gears is back, and somehow it already feels like it never left. Not in the good way. You waited 6 years, you hype up the return, you drop a beta with crossplay improved netcode and a promise to go back to the roots. But the moment players picked up their lancers and wall bounced into their first shotgun fight, the illusion cracked. What we got isn't Gears 6, it's not even a reinvention, it's Gears of War Ultimate Edition 2.0. Now with better lighting and more pink and planes. Now don't get it twisted. This isn't a hate piece. This is real talk from a franchise that used to be untouchable. A game that defined an era of Xbox multiplayer, now looking shaky in 2025. Because while the visuals slap, the cover is sticky, the weapons feel inconsistent, and the devs? Silent. And if you're wondering why the community is so split down in the middle, some calling it finally Gears again, and others calling it a lazy cash grab, you're not alone. We've got a beta full of copy-paste mechanics, center screen shotgun issues, and balance that demands pixel-perfect headshots in a game where half the lobby is still figuring out what initial damage means. But here's the thing. There's one moment, one very overlooked piece of this whole Reloaded puzzles that might explain why this game turned out the way it did. And it's something we're saving for the end of the video. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about the Gear Reloaded beta, because what just happened deserves a proper breakdown, not a blind rage tweet. First things first, yes, it's fun. Yes, it's pretty. Yes, it plays more like classic Gears than the bot walk-in circus that was Gears 5. Oof. And for a brief moment, when the shotgun finally connects and you get that perfect chunk kill, it feels like home. But those moments, they're the exception, not the rule. Because this beta exposed a lot, and we're not just talking about the box or the servers. We're talking about the design philosophy that seems dangerously out of sync with where modern shooters and modern players actually are. Let's start with the elephant in the beta lobby. This is Ultimate Edition with a glow up, straight up. Same mechanics, same animation structure, same shotgun logic. Reloaded is a polished reheat of the 2015 Ultimate Edition, which itself was a remaster of the original Gears. That means we're now 2 generations deep into reworking the same game with slightly different frosting. Look, nostalgia's cool, but when you've waited 6 years for something new and it turns out to be something you played a decade ago, frustration is not only valid, it's expected. And this is where the timeline gets messy. If Reloaded had dropped 2 years after Gears 5, players might have welcomed it with open arms. A bridge game, a breather, a reboot. But dropping this in 2025 after years of silence feels like the coalition blew the dust off a half-finished project and hoped we'd just be grateful to see the red omen again. The wait set expectations, the execution shattered them. Let's talk mechanics. Cobra-based shooting, still satisfying when it works. But the beta was full of sticky cover issues where movement didn't always register or canceled unintentionally. That's not a get good issue, that's a dev side inconsistency. And in a game that's built entirely around tactical movement and cover finesse, that's a deal breaker. Gears is one of the few shooters where spatial control is your skill expression. If your roadie run, slide, or take cover action betrays you in the middle of a fight, no amount of skill can save you. Weapon inconsistency? Oh, we need to talk about the Gnasher. Again. Because if you've been around this franchise long enough, you know that every Gears release gets hit with the same debate. Is the shotgun broken, or are people just missing their shots? Missing? And Reloaded. It's the most polarizing version yet. Here's a short version. Gears Reloaded uses center screen aiming, not muscle based. That means your shots comes out of the center of your screen, not your gun barrel. Cool in theory, terrible in practice when you're nose to nose in a wall bounce brawl. Add that to a wider pellet spread, 9 pellets versus Gears 512, and suddenly point blank fights turns into coin flips. Players are watching slow motion replays of missed chunks, swearing they hit dead center, but if even one pellet misses and the enemy's food health, no kill for you. This is the moment where old school Gears fans shout, "That's how it's supposed to work!" And sure, if you're from the Gears 1 or 3 era, that makes sense. Fights weren't one-shot poker hands, they were straight fights. Long, tense, angle-based dances with multiple exchanges. But modern players, they've been trained by Gears 5 to expect faster kills, looser hit detection, and more room for error. And now they're getting punished for bad habits. Hard. The problem is that Reloaded doesn't explain any of this. It just throws you into the meat grinder and lets social media sort it out. The Coalition didn't clarify how the shotgun system works, how damage is calculated, or why some of your shots look like hits but aren't. They left it to the community to argue about mechanics that should have been transparently explained from the jump. And then there's the ping problem. It's 2025. There's no excuse for ping-based shotgun delay in a Microsoft-backed online shooter. The Gears Reloaded beta was supposed to be a server stress test, and the fact that players are still getting 90 ms plus pings in their own regions is laughable. This isn't a free-to-play indie shooter with one server farm in Iceland. This is Gears. It's Xbox flagship royalty, so why are so many players still getting teleport kills, ghost bullets, or shots that land 0.2 seconds after input? It's not just annoying, it's destructive, because when your entire skill ceiling revolves around timing and movement, lag kills trust. And once players stop trusting the core feel of the game, they drop it. So where are we now? The game feels like Gears, but the expectation mismatch is causing chaos. Newer players think it's broken because they don't understand the stricter mechanics. Older players are frustrated because they do understand them and they're seeing the same problems that plagued Ultimate Edition still lurking underneath the surface. Yes, a lot of complaints stem from skill gaps and misunderstanding, but also, yes, the game needs more clarity, better onboarding, and devs who are willing to explain the damn systems instead of letting Twitter do PR. The bottom line? Reloaded is a love letter that forgot to include a return address. Let's talk about the Gears identity crisis, because that's the real story here. Under all the shotgun debates, ping rants, and sticky cover memes lies a much bigger question. Who is this game actually for? And more importantly, who is it leaving behind? See, this isn't just about bugs or balance. Gears Reloaded is a symptom of a deeper split in the community, one that's been growing since Gears 3. There are two very different tribes in the Gears player base now. On one side, you've got the legacy players, the old hits, the ones who played the original trilogy on CRTs, learn how to up A without breaking their fingers, and still use terms like strafing and chunk range, unironically. And on the other, the new wave, players who started in Gears 4 or Gears 5, they're used to faster pacing, lenient hitboxes, aim assists, kill streaks, and a game that lets you sprint into fights and get results without a doctorate in spread math. Reload tries to serve both groups, and in doing so, it's pissing off both. Legacy players are glad to see the tighter mechanics and longer fights return, but they're not blind. They see the reuse code, the server lag, the lack of meaningful updates since Ultimate Edition. For them, this isn't just a rebirth, it's a rerun. A slightly better version of a game they've already played to death. Meanwhile, newer players are getting stomped. They're used to run and gun Gears. Now they're missing point blanks, losing 1v1s, and rage quitting because they don't understand why they need initial damage just to secure a kill. And no one's telling them. There's no tutorial explaining pellet spread, no advanced training, no visual aids breaking down why the Gnasher works the way it does. Just vibes and violence. And you can feel the friction. Look at the forums, look at Twitter, look at Reddit. This game is dividing its own fan base, and not in the friendly rivalry kind of way. More like you either get it or you uninstall. That's a problem, because while it's cool to reward mastery, no game thrives if the skill curve is vertical and untelegraphed. You want a healthy multiplayer title in 2025? You need clarity, transparency, tooltips, matchmaking that teaches instead of punishes. Even Dark Souls figured that out. Gears still hasn't. The Coalition silence isn't helping either. You've got content creators out here making full PowerPoint, slow-mo frame breakdowns, explaining how Reloaded works better than any official source ever has. Meanwhile, the devs are hiding behind vague patch notes and corporate speak. We're monitoring feedback. Cool! But are you explaining anything? Are you giving the player base the tools they need to improve? Because here's the truth, no one wants to say out loud. Most people don't hate this game because it's bad. They hate it because they feel like they're being gaslit. They shoot someone point blank, doesn't register. They get killed mid-slide, they call it BS. They blame the game, not realizing the system is working exactly as designed, but no one ever told them how it works. That's not just bad UX, that's a missed opportunity to build a master, stronger, smarter player base, and long term that kills games. Now here's where things get even more layered. Gears Reloaded has some truly great ideas, but they're buried under nostalgia and a fear of moving forward. The game encourages strategic play, it rewards flanking, team fights, weapon control. It wants you to treat it like a fighting game with guns. But it does nothing to communicate that vision to new players. So instead of onboarding people into that depth, it just body bags them in match after match until they rage uninstall. And what's the end result? You get a shrinking player base made up of diehards gatekeeping the game because they had to learn the hard way, while everyone else moves on to the next free-to-play shooter that respects their time. We've seen it happen before. Titanfall 2, Lawbreakers, even Halo Infinite took hits because of an onboarding gaps. Gears Reloaded is at a crossroads. Does it want to be a technical shooter for the elite, or a mainstream PvP powerhouse with smart systems and accessibility baked in? Because right now, it's trying to be both, and it's failing to serve either. And we haven't even touched on the content problem yet. Maps are recycled, mechanics are recycled, even some of the movement tech is straight from Ultimate Edition with a slight buff. That might fly in a remaster, but Reloaded is being pitched as a major comeback. So, where's the new blood? Where's the innovation? Where's the risk? Reloaded plays like it was built for 2015, not launched in 2025. It's fun, it's familiar, but it's not fresh. And that's a real fear, isn't it? That Gears isn't evolving, that the franchise is spinning its Lancer wheels in the same mud it's been stuck in for a decade. Because the moment it tries something new, the hardcore crowd freaks out, and the devs slam the brakes. But here's the thing, you can respect the past without living in it. You can evolve Gears without turning it into Call of Duty. And Reloaded still has a chance to do that, but only if the Coalition gets honest about the game, about the mechanics, and about who they're really building this for. You think you're point blank, you think your aim's clean, but if even one pellet misses and your opponent's at full health, like I said before, you're not getting that killed, not even the close. This isn't some dev oversight. It's by design. Reloaded shotgun follows the same strict mechanics as Ultimate Edition. You've got a 9 pellet spread, a wide cone of fire, and no room for error. If you're even slightly off, those pellets are decorating the wall behind your target, not ending a fight. And here's where it gets wild. A lot of players don't know that. They've been trained by Gears 5 where the spread was tighter, their hit registration more forgiving, and the time to kill noticeably lower. In Gears 5, if you didn't get a one-shot chunk, chances are you were still alive long enough to mash A and roll your way out. In Reloaded, that margin doesn't exist. So what happens? People start calling the game inconsistent. They swear they're hitting shots. They post clips on Twitter. Look, I hit him. Except they didn't. They missed 2 pellets and Reloaded doesn't care how close you think you were. It only cares what the math says. Here's the kicker. That's actually good game design. It rewards precision, it rewards movements, it rewards players who take their time, angle their fights, and understand the mechanics. But there's a catch. None of that is explained. We go back to the same thing. The game doesn't show pellet spread. It doesn't have a shooting range that breaks down damage mechanics. There's no tutorial for advanced cover play, no guide on initial damage, no tooltip that says, hey, maybe don't try to chunk a full health enemy from downtown. You're just thrown in and told to figure it out. And while that might appeal to the legacy crowd who want to master the system and gatekeeping it with pride, it's alienating for everyone else. Now, let's look at the other weapons because the shotgun gets all the hate, but it's not the only piece of the puzzle. The Lancer, for example, feels amazing. High recoil, solid damage at mid-range, and finally no training wheels. You actually have to control your spray and commit to positioning. Same with the snub. It hits harder, has to be aimed, and it isn't just a backup panic tool anymore. These are all great changes. But again, none of it is explained. There's no weapon breakdown, no in-game resource that tells you optimal ranges or damages drop-off. The people figuring this stuff out, they're either veterans or streamers doing the dev's job for them. Or some wacko out there, I don't know. And let's not forget the center screen aiming system. Look down, slightly when you're close, aim at the feet, you're not playing Call of Duty. This is geometry. And that's where the missed opportunity really is, because the weapon sandbox in Reloaded isn't bad. It's actually kind of brilliant. It's not balanced around instant gratification, it's balanced around understanding. But the devs expect players to do all the understanding on their own. No guides, no training tools, no damage display, just trial and error, and error, and error, and error, and error. And error. Dum. This approach would work if the rest of the game were rock solid, but with server issues, matchmaking drama, and recycled content already frustrating the community, you're adding one more layer of confusion on top of a cake nobody asked for. Let's be clear, Reloaded could be a masterclass in combat sandbox design, but right now, it's a class with no syllabus, no teacher, and half the students failing out before the first quiz. And look, we're not saying this game needs to handhold. Gears was never meant to be Fortnite with sawed-off shotguns, but there's a massive difference between teaching death and hiding it. The real tragedy, if players understood how the shotgun worked, how center screen aiming changes close quarter engagements, how damage scaling actually plays out, they'd stop calling it broken. They start calling it competitive. They would respect it. But without communication from the coalition, without any built-in learning tools, the only people who benefit are the ones who already know this. Everyone else, rage quits and Reddit threads. Let's get real. Right now, Gears Reloaded is standing on a cliff's edge, and we've been here before. Gears 4 felt like a confused reboot, Gears 5 played like a cover shooter that forgot it was about cover, and now we've got Reloaded, which wants to be a nostalgic love letter, a competitive shooter, a casual friendly comeback, and an Ultimate Edition rework all at the same time. You're not Justin Timberlake. And here's the brutal truth, you can't be everything to everyone, especially not in the most unforgiving genre in gaming, competitive online PvP. So the question that's been looming for the past 3 segments, the one we've been teasing without saying out loud, is this. Should Gears of War Reloaded even be launching in this current state? And for us at Level Up Gaming, will we actually buy it? Let's start with the facts. Reloaded is built on stronger bones, it's faster, tighter, and way more grounded than Gears 5. The cover system, while janky at times, wants to be smooth. The gunplay, especially when it comes to the Lancer and Snuff, feels damn near perfect. And the return to classic fight pacing, where you don't win with a single up A, but instead with brains, angles, and patience, that's pick Gears. There are moments where this game sings, but those moments are buried. They're buried under lack of communication, ping spikes, a community divide, a dated netcode, invisible mechanics, and the crushing weight of expectations that comes from slapping the world Reloaded on a franchise that built the modern Xbox identity. And that's where it gets painful, because Gears Reloaded is almost good. But almost good in a post-Modern Warfare 2, Apex, and Fortnite landscape doesn't cut it anymore. If this game had launched in 2018, we'd probably be praising it for its focus and precision. But in 2025, after 6 years of waiting, after watching this franchise bleed players in relevance, Reloaded feels like too little too late. It's not just the recycled mechanics, it's the tone-deaf timing. You waited 6 years and dropped a refined version of Ultimate Edition? You didn't evolve the systems, didn't explain them better, didn't modernize the onboarding, didn't even fix some of the oldest issues with netcode and movement prediction. This isn't a relaunch. This is a well-lit memory lane with landmines. Now look, we're not here to pretend we know the dev roadmap. I certainly don't. Maybe the August 26 launch comes with major updates. Maybe Ranked is buttery smooth. That's a whole lot of maybes for a game that's launching with this much baggage. So let's answer the question that's probably in your head right now. Will Level Up Gaming buy Gears Reloaded? Honestly, yes, but not for the reason that you think. We'll buy it because we've been here since Gears 1. Because we want to believe this franchise can still be something special. Because when it works, when the ping is low, the cover snaps clean, and the fights stretch into a sweaty, skill-driven duel of the minds, there's nothing like it. We'll buy it because we want to support that version of the game. We're buying with eyes wide open. Because right now, this game does not deserve the benefit of the doubt. It deserves a spotlight. It deserves pressure. It deserves a community that holds it accountable while still showing up. So, Coalition, you've got one last shot. You've got a core here that's solid. You've got weapons that reward skill. You've got just enough nostalgia to pull old hits back into and just enough potential to make new ones care. But if you botch the launch, if you stay silent, if you ignore the onboarding problem, the ping complaints, and the modern day expectations for competitive titles, then Gears Reloaded will become exactly what its hardest critics are already calling it, a prettier version of a 10-year-old game that nobody asked for. And we don't want that. We don't want to watch this franchise fade into irrelevance. We don't want to keep saying almost. We want to say finally. But you've got to meet us halfway. So here's your turn. Let's hear from you. Did you play the beta? Are you buying it? Or did this feel like the final straw in a long, slow decline for Gears? What does this franchise need to really come back from the dead? And are you willing to stick it out until it gets there? Drop your comments down below. Let's hash it out. The realest conversations always come from people who've been there since day one. And we know you're out there. And if this video helped you understand why Gears Reloaded is such a mess and such a missed opportunity, smash that like button like it's a Torque Pro fight on Fuel Depot. Subscribe to Level Up Gaming. No PR spin, no fake hype, just raw gameplay, unfiltered reviews, and creators who care about this stuff. Like it's personal, because it is. And before you leave, click this video right here. It's the one game we covered that didn't feel like an open beta disguised as a full release. No spoilers, just trust. Click it.